Now let's talk about the judicial behavior of the judges of the Supreme Court of India and then the use of jurimetrics. The judge's philosophy, which is reflected in the judicial pronouncement. Benjamin Cardozo, in his classical work Nature of Judicial Process, mentioned various factors which influence judicial functioning, and the behavior is one of them. It is always the social and political background of the judges which is relevant in explaining the decision making behavior. There are dynamics theories of judicial process. The picture of the judges as a policy oriented decision maker who derives his premises both from within and outside the courtroom and whose functions are exceeding the mechanical work by applying settled rules of law to clear fact situation. Theories does not specify the precise nature of the relationship between judge's background, his experience and his judicial work, which definitely makes an important part while a judge gives a decision. The judicial decision cannot be explained solely in terms of social background itself. There is a philosophy and psychology of the judges which is more helpful while a judge pronounces or gives a judgment. The constitutional law in fact changes according to the philosophical current in the minds of the judges. The social views and legal philosophy of the judge are often powerful forces both in shaping of the law and administration of the judiciary. The subjectivity of an individual judge plays the most important role in the deciding of cases because the inherent morality which is embedded in a judge's subconscious mind gives the law the dynamic character. Every judge has his or her own perception of what the law is and the law functions, and that is what is undertaken to be implemented. Now, psychological motives and influences are not othered when one assumes the role of a judge. That is the case with other opinion of the individuals. The judicial opinion represented in a measure of personal impulse of the judge in relation to the situation before him, and these impulses are determined by judge's lifelong series of previous experience. That means somehow the background and whatever the judge have perceived before being the judge of the Supreme Court or the higher courts is definitely going on to reflect while the judge is giving a judgment. Then human factors and the environment is definitely an important aspect in the judicial decisions. The personality of a judge plays an important part in the process of their adjudication on particular cases and has to be taken into account as an innumerable part of the case. As a child, the judge who was born into a human community that has already experienced and classified an almost endless number of situations and the behaviors which are appropriate to each situation. The guidelines derived from all this experience and all these situations are imparted to the child as he develops and matures. When as an adult, the judge is faced with a situation, the pre-conscious and the subconscious screening and the typing of the situation and rules of behavior occur, and this affects the person's particular personality and behavior. Because judges are also men from diversified backgrounds, while they are interpreting the constitution, they are inferring out of their experience and their ideal of the social order. We have, I think being the law students, we have noticed various judgments, various judges, their behaviors, their judgments and their powerfulness, their landmarkness, such as all of us talk of Justice Krishna Iyer, Justice Bhagwati, their philosophies, their parameters of creating with regard to PILs, the judgment with regard to judicial independence were very famous just because they have given the interpretation in such a way that it become an important and integral part of our constitutional system. Similarly, Justice Kuldeep Singh and Justice Verma are also remembered. Justice Verma, very famous for giving sexual harassment guidelines, which shows his sensitivity towards the women and the weaker sections of the society. Justice Khanna gave ADM Jabalpur judgment, despite he have to leave his race for the Chief Justice post, but he gave a very big and long judgment, a human judgment in ADM Jabalpur case. Markande Kadju for his different approach. Gyan Sudha Mishra giving a judgment in Aruna Shanbag, which is about passive euthanasia. Justice K.S. Radhakrishnan, Indra Sharma case about live-in relationship, where he stated that live-in relationship is not a sin, though it may not be socially acceptable. We also have Justice Ganguly and some other judges whose behavior have become subject matter of discussion due to some bad reasons also. The judges' participation in the decision making process gets subjected to both the formal and informal rules and practices adopted in the bench assignment activity, which is a complex phenomena. The social attitude and values, preferences of judges are reflected in the opinions they write and the vote they cast for or against a particular judgment. One of the prerequisites for studying such differences among the judges is that the individualistic behavior of each judge must reveal certain recurrent pattern, uniformities and consistencies over a period of time. Only if the regularities are observable, the valuables sufficient to explain the observed regularities can be identified. Supreme Court of India and its judges have limited success in it because of certain reasons. One of the reasons is the short tenure of the judges, which leads to rapid turnover in the court, making it just difficult to observe their respective behavior over a reasonable period of time. However, we see the examples of recent examples of minority and majority judgment that reflects the behavior and the background of the judges. The frequent use of small panels, which consist of 2 or 3 judges, to dispose of bulk of the work of the court, ruling out any possibility of all or majority of the judgment to participate jointly and simultaneously on the decision making panels. Number 3, the quantum and character of overt dissent in the court has been such that it does not easily lend itself to behavioral analytical tools. And now finally, to conclude this lecture, we can say that in order to analyze judgments, you need some insight into the decision making process of a judge. Since very little has been written by the judges themselves about the practicalities of the judgeship in modern times, there arises today an emphasis on the logic of discovery and the drawing of an analogy between the task of the judge and that of a natural scientist. Jurimetrics, the application of modern logic and computer technique to legal problems, may be useful in the analysis of facts, in the identification of ambiguities, in the syntax and perhaps in the prediction and formulation of judicial decisions. Jurimetrics does not offer any social answers. It is concerned with only investigating the structure and dimensions of all experience that are relevant to such law. Jurimetrics further have 2 dimensions: information technology and computer advanced technology, and second part, mental, physical and social background of the judges and its impact on him while deciding the cases. So finally, we can say until a time technology reaches such a high where artificial intelligence would be able to analyze with certainty the mechanism by which a judge decides a case, an inquiry into the subjectivity of the judge's discretion, it would rest with the subjective analysis of fellow humans who are subconsciously governed by their sets of social and mental background. The jurimetrics will be a true science only then.